I'm Gina Baxter.
And I'm Rafael Morales.
And this is Fire on the Mountain. This week's episode will look at another example of why your DA matters. We'll talk about some local events, and we'll interview Farm Manager Truitt Culbreth of V.E.T.S, or Veterans Engaging Through Service. Without any further ado, let's light it up.
Is that good? 2 men in Henderson County will not face charges after the shooting death of an 18-year-old girl, which our district attorney is calling a, quote, tragic accident. Back on October 20th, 2021, Rachel Buchanan and her partner Chris Shields were hanging out with another couple, Jake and Autumn, who were their close friends and neighbors. At some point, Chris Shields, known as Junior, and the other man went back to the other house to retrieve a phone charger, and the 2 women stayed behind. While the men were gone, Rachel and Autumn decided to hide in the bushes on the side of the embankment, prepped with eggs to throw at Junior and Jake on their way back. They started giggling as their partners came back by, and upon hearing the noise in the bushes, both men opened fire, one with a 12 gauge and the other with a 9mm. Rachel was hit by 3 bullets and died on the way to the hospital. It's not clear to me from the reporting whose gun it was that had shot her, though.
Now, Raph, why do you think that the boys were walking around in the evening in their own neighborhood from house to house with loaded guns?
I see in the script you have in all caps, Raph, make some guesses.
Make some guesses.
Make some guesses.
Guess. Just guess.
Okay. Well, there are bears, they're drunk. So because they're drinking alcohol, it makes more sense because they might be more prone to bear attacks when you're wasted, to carry firearms and loaded firearms and be prepared to shoot into the darkness at potential bears that giggle like people.
Right. So it wasn't bears. Guess again.
Outside of bears that giggle like human women, I got nothing. I don't know.
So the reason that they gave the district attorney was that there were a lot of Black Panther sightings in the area. So the articles all refer to the area where they live as a remote part of Hendersonville, but it's not. It's in Etowah. It's down by Moonshine Mountain. It's behind Evans Road. It's not, it's farmland, but it's hardly remote. Like, there are lots of people that live there. So they told the DA that they had heard stories about a Black Panther being in the neighborhood, and that's why they were walking around with loaded guns in their neighborhood, just in case they came across a Black Panther on Big Willow.
Okay, but the giggling, they said the girls giggled. There was giggling, right?
Yes. Yeah, they actually said that one of the girls farted, and that's what they heard, and that they started giggling. And so they essentially are saying that this girl farting was what they thought was the sound of a Black Panther. That's what they told the district attorney. So, not only did you shoot her, but you have to fucking embarrass her, too. It's so fucked.
How did I miss this? This is insane.
Yeah, and it's right down. So the sentencing was the lack of sentencing was just decided this week. But you missed it because they didn't put any information about it out until now. So I heard about it. It happened October 20th. I heard about it October 26th and posted it to, I'm in a group for fans of the podcast My Favorite Murder. And there's a bunch of us in Asheville. So we all share true crime news and talk about what's going on in victims' rights and stuff like that. So I shared that story in the group. I was like, look, y'all, I heard this rumor. Has anyone heard anything about it? And there were people from Etowah and Big Willow area in there who were like, yeah, there were gunshot pellets all over the neighborhood. He almost emptied a full clip. There were pellets everywhere. So we knew that it had happened, but there was no reporting on it until way later. There were a couple stories. And if you want to guess why now, you can, but I'll tell you later if not. You have any guesses about why they might cover up a story like that?
Okay. I have something to admit. I really am not a conspiracy theory person, except when I really fucking want to be. And then I just am. And there's nothing I can do about it.
Well, now's the time.
So I think that the federal government has used our hard-earned tax dollars to scientifically experiment on wild animals, giving them human-like sounds and like giggles and farts that resemble humans in order to better cloak them among us as efficient killing machines. That's all I got.
While that is a really well-educated guess that
Thank you.
definitely has backing in science,
Thank you.
it
does.
was a little closer to home than that. The one of the boys who was in the shooting is the son of a sheriff's deputy.
Oh, see, I just don't believe that. That is the
I know, now it's hard to believe, huh?
no, yeah.
Yeah.
Save that shit for YouTube. All right.
That's Christopher Thomas Shields Sr., sheriff's deputy in Henderson County.
goddamn bottomless.
Yeah, it goes all the way to the top.
I really honestly would prefer the federal government experimenting on wild animals,
Yeah.
giving them human sounds.
Yeah, then knowing that our own sheriff's office was quashing news stories about a murder that happened so that they could cover up any charges that may come to his own son. Yeah.
So I know that we do have some great. I'm not going to sit here and put on the internet forever my voice just latching on to the idea that all of the news around here is so fucked up as to just like, a sheriff says don't do this, so they don't do it. I know that we do have good journalists with journalistic integrity here.
Absolutely.
How the story was never produced by those folks, I don't understand. Maybe because it was so successfully squashed at the very, very local level that the word never got out enough.
Yeah, so there were stories. WLOS, News 13, The Lightning, and Blue Ridge Now all covered it. If not right when it happened, in the week following. They covered it with short stories with little detail. However, they had more detail than what we're getting now. So I think that those initial stories were written, but they were... This is where I become a conspiracy theorist because I believe that they may have been prevented from being circulated by people who have the time and energy to do that kind of thing. I don't in any way think that there was a lack of journalistic integrity. I think that it's social more than journalistic. So this is the point where the district attorney comes into play and their role in the way that we prosecute crimes here. The DA, Andrew Murray, says that no criminal laws were violated because both Barber and Shields Jr. had the lawful right to own their personal weapons and to fire them outside of city limits. So that's the standard that he's using to avoid filing any charges. An excerpt from the email that he wrote to the SBI reads, quote, "It's obvious from their close relationships with Buchanan and Nichols that neither Barber nor Shields Jr. intended to shoot at or to harm Buchanan or Nichols," end quote. So even in that tiny snippet, it's obvious from their close relationship that neither of them intended to harm Buchanan or Nichols, that we're disregarding all domestic violence, right? Because if being close was a reason to not harm someone, we wouldn't see interpersonal domestic violence. He goes on to say, however, the tragic result of their actions was that Buchanan was shot and killed by a 9mm projectile discharged from Barber's firearm. Regrettably, everyone involved in the loss of Miss Buchanan's life must forever live with their personal decision-making and actions on this ill-fated night, end quote. So you can see where he's kind of using like a passive voice and acting like nobody's at fault for it, and it was just some arbitrary accident that happened, like she stepped in a bear trap.
This takes me back to the previous district attorney, Greg Newman. The first time I ever demonstrated in my life was whenever my good friend Adam Jackson was...
Rest in peace, Adam.
Yeah. When he was struck on his way to work by a woman who, for all intents and purposes, had no business driving. And who, on Greg Newman's watch, got to even keep her driver's license after murdering him with her car. That's really the tip of the iceberg with Greg Newman, and I'm sure I do remember similar sentiment coming out of the DA's office at that time about the gravity of someone who is not calloused murderer taking human life and the implications that it has for them for the rest of their life. And it was like, back to the make no mistake, she's going to feel this every day for the rest of her life, that she killed someone. And it's like trying to bait out the empathy in the community so that they don't harp on the fact that you're literally in an elected position. And it's almost like you're gaslighting them into not being critical of you because they just don't have the emotional understanding,
Yeah, and that a particularly upsetting aspect of this case has been that people close to the family of the victim, when we have tried to talk about this on social media or to hold a microscope to it, have asked us to stand down. I've been asked 3 times now on forums for Transylvania County Crime and Awareness to not talk about it at all. And I've fortunately been backed by people who see the system for what it is, but because they're so bought into the concept that the responsibility is on the population to create empathy for the shooter as well as the victim, that somehow they're intertwined and they're both victims in a similar way, which is not the case, right? Somebody murdered somebody and somebody was murdered. So Rachel's brother actually posted on his social media that he believes that D.A. Murray is, quote, crooked. And he was told to sit down and shut up, essentially. Somebody said, would you want your sister hearing you say that? And his other sister, Courtney, said, quote, I'm sure our sister wouldn't want him in trouble. However, anger is part of the healing process, and he's allowed to speak his mind. He isn't wrong in doing so. It's simply wrong to ask him not to feel or speak for the deceased. Our wrong must be righted, and we will get there. He knows it won't fix it, but we are all very angry that someone got away with murder simply because he was the child of a Leo.
Okay. So, real quick, just to be completely transparent, only so much of this is our business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're listening at home, I do also want to vocalize that I kind of have an aversion to murder mystery podcasts because I think they exploit suffering for entertainment. And it's always been something like the True TV and everything. It's been something I've had, like the Don't Fuck with Cats on Netflix. Like I just couldn't watch that, and I was really grossed out by the fact that the literal murder of a human being was being shown and.
I did not watch that, and I don't know what happened in it.
Well, not to go sidebar too much, but there is only so much of this that is our business, and not to exploit a murder for any entertainment value. No matter which way you look at this, it is tragic. I think that personally, the biggest issue here is the manipulation of judicial process by, again, term elected officials. So the part where it becomes our business is the part where elected officials try to cover this up to control a public narrative, because the public narrative is supposed to be what guides them to begin with.
Right.
It's like they work for the public. It's not the other way around. What if it was... There's a number of different ways, a number of different angles you can come at this, and you can have all kinds of different conversations, but I think given the facts that we have, there was a shooting. It was tragic. One of the shooters was the son of a sheriff. The story was buried, and the charges were essentially dropped.
Yes.
This is a tale as old as time.
Tale as old as time.
A song as old as rhyme.
Loose panthers in the street. I was torn about even talking about it, right? Because it's really not our business. How the family responds is really not our business. But I think you're right that the part of it that I'm concerned with is that the district attorney has the authority and the power to make such critical decisions within our community. And that makes it super important that we pay attention to those down ballot elections.
Yes, and we have receipts for the previous district attorney. I know we said circle back around to this, Greg Newman.
That's right.
He was removed from office, and he was only the third case in case of its kind in North Carolina, in the whole history of North Carolina. And it was Superior Court Judge Robert C. Irvin that issued his order April 27th of 2021, which permanently removed that top criminal prosecutor from Henderson, Polk, and Transylvania counties from that elected office. And Superior Court Judge Robert C. Irvin found that Newman engaged in, quote, willful misconduct in office and, quote, conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice, which brings the office into disrepute, end quote. And that is under North Carolina General Statute 7A-66.
Yeah, there's also a section of that ruling where he said that the willful misconduct were, quote, done intentionally, knowingly, and generally in bad faith, which I think is a really powerful summation of Greg Newman's time in office.
This is all that, this is that good old boy shit.
That's right. That's exactly what it is.
That was immediately, whenever I first said that I was going to run, that was the first thing. It was actually Zach. It was just like, yeah, you just got to get ready for the good old boys. Like, you know what's going to come. I mean, you're some kid that nobody really knows anything about, and you got a criminal record. So he's like, they're going to fuck with you pretty hard. And like
and they did.
It's the good old boy says they did. Yeah.
And they still are, kind of. I mean, it still affects you. Even though you're done running, there's still stuff that people bring up all the time. Because the system is in place.
It's all right.
And it's well supported.
It's all right. It's not, but it will be.
Yeah, and you have the personal ability to find ways to be all right with it, but it doesn't negate the fact that systemically there are scaffolds in place to make sure that people who they feel are speaking out of turn or who don't have the right to have as loud of a voice as others are silenced.
So for folks listening at home, the district attorney is Andrew Murray. Andrew Murray was appointed in May 2021 after Greg Newman was removed from office. Andrew Murray is the district attorney for North Carolina's 42nd prosecutorial district, which includes Henderson, Transylvania, and Polk counties. As district attorney, Mr. Murray oversees state criminal cases within his jurisdiction, supervises assistant district attorneys and support staff, and advises local law enforcement.
This is a true crime-ass episode. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have our interview with Truitt Culbreth, farm manager at V.E.T.S, or Veterans Engaging Through Service.
Gina, real quick, before we keep going, have you seen Real Jam Production stuff? It's our local videography company right here in Hendersonville.
I have, and they are awesome. The way they tell a story is awesome, and they really capture the essence of what's going on,
Yeah. And it's not like an advertisement. It's a story that connects and resonates. When I go to places and buy things, it's mostly because I vibe with the mission. If it's a shitty owner who takes advantage of their customers or sees us or their employees as a commodity, then I'm out. And I want to know who I'm supporting and know that they have a genuinely honest and authentic vibe before I give them my money.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Amy and Jay at Real Jam Productions, you can definitely feel that with them. If I was a business owner or had a project that I needed to get across to the public, I would go with Real Jam.
And that's spelled out REEL Jam Productions for folks at home. Real like old school. Love the play on words there.
Stay real, love your story. Check out realjamproductions.com and get 20% off your next video project by emailing them that you heard about them here on the podcast. So first of all, thank you so much for letting us talk to you today, and thank you so much for having us at your house at the last minute. We wanted to bring you on the podcast today to be able to ask you some questions about the farm and changes that have recently happened, new things that are going on, anything that you'd like to share. So if you don't mind, maybe we could start with your background and how you started working with the farm and how you came to be in the position of manager that you're in now.
Thank you very much for y'all letting me do this. But so V.E.T.S farm, it's Veterans Engaging Through Service. And I became involved with this farm because of the board president now, and I'm the director at the new farm. We all worked together at the Veterans Healing Farm previously. And just with some circumstances, it changed. It was a great opportunity with the lease that we were offered and the multiple avenues to address keeping veterans involved with the community and having the community involved with veterans and involving agritherapy, which having 15 acres with animals in a working farm with continual projects, there's nothing that we can't do out there or that we are not doing out there. We have a barn we're renovating. We have the tiny homes where vets have the opportunity to stay temporarily if they are volunteering on the farm, if they're a board member, or if they're involved. We have a pond that's fully stocked. We have horses, peacocks, emus, pigs, chickens, 40 chickens, which is a little much, but we'll work on that. But that also benefits some of the other things we're doing. But going back to what you first asked me, how I became involved was because of where I worked previously. And we have kept a strong core group of veterans and community members that come out there and help us every day because we are a nonprofit. And as we were just incorporated on February the 1st. And
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And our funding is clearly, we're just, it's a startup. So that's one of our biggest things too, is struggling with funding and getting more participants. We have a core group of 10 people that are always there. It's very unusual with what we have and the guys that have stuck together to have that many people show up every day, to have 3 to 5 people every day that show up that aren't paid, that are retirees or retired vets, and that want to have that environment to be around. And it's a gorgeous piece of property. I mean, we are very fortunate to be out there. It's the right thing to do. And also to have, I know, and I'm going to go off because I'll just do my normal spiel, but
do it.
To have I know one thing that our guys tell us is you don't want to say you want to reincorporate veterans into the community because veterans are a huge portion of our community. They make up 65% of the community in North Carolina.
Wow.
Which is huge. So they are our community.
Yeah.
But when you look at our mission statement, you say veterans engaging through service. You want veterans and the community who are not veterans working together when they want to. And having the opportunity on that farm where there is a routine, where there's something daily that you can do. There are animals to take care of. There are obviously a ton of projects on the farm. And then with what our plans are with our 10-year plan, having the lease that we have the option for, we have, starting mid-June, we will have a roadside market on Wednesdays. And then the produce that we were growing will be sold right there. And all the profits will go back to the farm and to the programs that we offer to our veterans. So that's a very cool thing. And a lot of our veterans are doing woodwork and metal work for the farm to go to that marketplace.
That is wonderful.
So
can you talk a little bit about what the specific mission of the farm is for people who may be completely unfamiliar with the work that you do?
So it's mainly to know that it's not a flash in the pan. It's not a one thing a month or a once a month thing, or you're begging the community to come help you. It is that you have somewhere you can go every day for solace or for a routine or for the camaraderie or the family that you might not have or that you miss, especially when especially with veterans who have been so used to a certain structure and routine. With this, you've got that. Because we have written down like exactly what to do every day, even if it's not a huge project. But with the field, we've planted since February, we've planted over 2,000 plants and produce that will be harvested for the market. And then also the animals, and today another option too, saying that you engage the community. You don't ask the community for help if you don't participate with the community as well. And today we went to the Laurels in Asheville, and there were 5 of us that went, and we redid their courtyard with produce and flowers, and we will go there every other week. So that's another thing that we can engage with, so that we just participate. That's part of what our mission is.
So working the farm and the property that y'all are leasing right now, and then also going out into the community and kind of giving back to others and using that time and energy that y'all have in your combined environment to create spaces for other people to enjoy produce and to be able to have a garden to tend to and to kind of push that outside into the community.
Absolutely. And people can bring their families as well. With the pond being stocked, children can come fish. They can learn how to take care of the chickens. They can take care of the gardens. They can harvest produce. They can participate in the weekly market. There are a lot of things that we are super fortunate that the Henderson family gave us the opportunity for a 10-year lease with that portion of property, which is right across from Linda's Plants in Edneyville.
Oh, yeah.
And right behind the Patillo Sod Company right there.
Yes.
It is a wonderful location. So we couldn't be more fortunate, and it was a window of opportunity that none of us could miss. There's the book Tribe by Sebastian Younger, that the owner of Boulder Crest in Virginia, who's also a veteran, it's a veterans farm. He always said he's a great mentor to me. He recommended all of us reading it. And it just says when you have a tribe together like that, you keep them together. And if there's a window like that, you jump through it.
Yes.
So that's what we
wonderful.
did.
So can you talk a little bit about what it was like to transition the entire farm property? Because you guys were out on 64 towards Brevard for a long time, right? At Veterans Healing Farm?
So that farm is still there at the moment. So we are super supportive of them, but our mission statement branched off a little bit after some transitions out there. And then we had this opportunity, and that's what we took advantage of.
Okay, so this is not
It's not the Veterans Healing Farm. So we're vets. So we're veterans engaging through service.
Okay, gotcha. So this is its own separate cool new project.
And I'm the director, and Michael Henderson's still board president. But once he had to leave, or he did need to leave because he does have a full-time real job.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yes, he's gone all the time. So what we have the opportunity to do with that family, that's why we chose with this land and the lease portion too, because it was hard to think you don't engage people and then leave them if something's going to end.
Right.
So that was it's kind of where your moral compass is.
So what do y'all tend to see as far as other needs for veterans in the community? Like y'all are providing a lot of support in kind of a holistic way for veterans in the community. Are there other needs that y'all see are not being met or gaps that need to be filled that y'all see because you have that close relationship with so many veterans?
I think with our needs that we need to provide and where our farm is, ours is more hands-on agrotherapy. So it's animals and getting out there, learning about plants, how to harvest produce, and meeting new people. And just, again, growing that camaraderie, whether it is with different community organizations or with new veterans that you meet that have similar stories, whether it was from a different branch of the military or anything different.
That is so wonderful. And I feel like that is such a need. I had no idea that we had 65% of the state are veterans.
And now you're making me do my hands where Heather always makes me laugh at myself. But that's what I pulled up, and I pulled it off the internet. But that's in North Carolina. That's what the percentage is.
Wow. So that's meeting a real a substantial need for people who.
And we aren't set up to, and there are so many veterans organizations in the state, which is phenomenal, and they all address different needs. There's some that are
Yes.
more equine therapy. Ours, there's Healing Waters, there that does fly fishing. There's Red, White, and Blue, that group with Pete West out of the VA hospital. There's so many people that address that, but you think about what our military did and what they've done for us, and especially watching things going on overseas right now. I don't understand that. I have family that goes back, multiple generations that were military, and then my cousin who is also on the board that's a ranger, and then just I feel fortunate to be even a portion or a part of this group, because they are such strong people, and their work ethic and their loyalty to each other is something that you don't really see, and that a lot of people have lost in society nowadays. It's like if somebody picks up the phone and says, like, I'm moving, I need help. I mean, there are a lot of people that have to post on Facebook to ask for help for moving if they can't afford it. So it's just little things like that that we've lost. And this group of people, and they have done so much for us, whether they served whatever amount of time in whatever branch of the military. I didn't do it, and I'm glad they did it for me.
Yes.
It's a wonderful thing to do.
Can you talk a little bit about what you know or what you've learned about the effects of agrotherapy and kind of what benefits it could bring to the veteran community?
Mm-hmm. I will. My first example I will give is the vice president of our board. And I know he would not care if I threw his name out there. So Mike Lentz is the first one. And he will always say, he's Navy, and I believe it was 26 years.
Wow.
And when I got a hold of him, and when I get somebody great, I'm not going to let them go. I will keep that group together and make I check on them. Like, if I don't hear from somebody for 2 days or they haven't shown up, then I make sure I know what's going on with them. And they are such amazing people. And again, like I said, their work ethic. With Mike Lentz, he'd never been around a farm before, and he is the hardest. There again, I keep going back to work ethic, which is something I feel like has been lost nowadays. He is so eager and so loves being around everybody and out there, and just again, it goes back to the structure, the regime, and the camaraderie, and that's what our military misses once they get turned loose. In my mind, and I go back to that book Tribe. Once they're done, then our government just turns them out into whatever and turns them over to the VA, and then that's it. And so where's their structure, and who's looking out for them then?
Yes.
And especially after what they've done and gone through. And some of the stories from the people that have served that are on the board are really, it makes me cry. Yeah. And it's heart-wrenching. And they are such good souls and such good men and women. I will do anything for them.
So you've mentioned work ethic is kind of a common theme of something that you see from veterans. Are there any other kind of through lines or themes or anything that you see kind of consistently come up in the work that you do?
I think it's just wanting to have that family and camaraderie feel again.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That you've been kind of sectioned off from your family, put into an unfamiliar place, and then you come back and you want to
have that
family
and have that drive again, and the urge to show up. Like, you don't want somebody to feel like they don't want to come out of their home. Yeah. Like, and especially like the people who aren't married and don't have children. What if it's somebody that's, if they don't have that, then where are they going to go? Yeah. And who do they look forward to going to every morning when they wake up?
Yes. And that structure and stability too, which we know, in people who have experienced trauma in any capacity, just having the stability and structure of somewhere to go every day.
Right.
And the same people to see every day, and pragmatic and tangible expectations.
Right.
Can really be a game changer.
And to see an end goal, like whether it's painting a fence or finishing the barn or something, to be like, I did this, I completed it, and we all went through not a great situation doing it, and something's going to go wrong, but you've got a great story and it's done.
Right. And you had each other to to back it up and to bounce off of and to work together with.
And to laugh at each other.
Yes.
That's what makes it good too.
Absolutely.
So
So if there were a veteran who was listening who wanted to get involved, or maybe even a family member or a friend of a veteran, how would they go about that process? How would they get in touch with you?
So we do have, our website is vets.farm.
Okay.
And then we are on Facebook. Unfortunately, our Facebook and Instagram couldn't link up because of the way luckily there are so many vets organizations. But on Facebook, we're Veterans Engaging Through Service.
Okay.
On Instagram, we're vets_2022.
Okay.
And then our email is vetsfarmnc@gmail.com. And our phone number is 828-435-2974.
And do you ask for people to, is there a referral system, or can people just call you up and say, hey, I'm a vet and I'm interested in helping out?
They can absolutely call and ask to help out and show up and make sure, because we are there every day. Sundays, not so much. Sundays is just feeding animals, just to let people know, because I know some people have Sundays as free days. And also, I'm trying to think, as far as fundraising right now, that's something we're working on. We do have a GoFundMe page just for the barn. We can use the barn clearly for our marketplace, but our biggest goal for the barn, and it's right on 64, like I said, across from Linda's Plants, is to get the cement poured for the barn. And then that's where our workshops will be held in the winter. It will also be set up for like more instructional workshops where people can take away a skill set, where they can drive in and do equipment repair or learn how to change their oil and have the opportunity to do that. So once that's done and we have the offices built, that's a big thing too.
And are those workshops for vets, or are they open to the public?
They are for vets.
Great.
And open to the public, because that's
Great.
part of our mission statement. They're part of the community, and if we ask the community for help, then we have to help the community as well. Oh, and then on the 21st of May, we do have an irrigation workshop that is hosted by Michael Stout. He owns Stoutscapes, which is an irrigation company. He's on our board, and he is wonderful. He used to be a teacher at Blue Ridge Community College, and that is a free workshop open to anybody, and it's from 10 to 2. Lunch is provided, and if you go to our website or to the email, then you can reply to that, and you are welcome to attend. It's not going to be super hard work. We'll do all the hard work ahead of time, but you will learn how to run irrigation out of a creek, a pond, and how it applies to a farm or a residence.
That is amazing. What an incredible skill set to be able to give to others, as a knowledge base, especially here where we have so much natural water supply.
Absolutely. And I think, too, what's really cool about being on a farm right now is as we go through since COVID, with people starting to do more gardening and learning how to always mildly panicking about things to know how to run your own irrigation, and it's not that hard, but when somebody shows you and it's in a fun atmosphere with a lot of good people around you, it's a wonderful workshop.
Is there anything that you would like to see the community pull together and provide as maybe an additional resource or support to veterans, like a call to action that you could think people who are listening might want to take part in to support our vets in a way that's kind of missing or lacking right now?
That's a hard question for me, because and this is a question I've been asked from the Legion before. Our group of veterans they're not homeless, and they're not truly lacking for anything except for to have that engagement. So I can't answer to that other portion. I think with veterans is just to remember how much they have done for us and what they can do, and also not to ever, they're the best people, and they're the real people. And so not to isolate them or make it seem like it's something weird. They are our community, and they they are who did everything for us. So as far as a call for anything for them is just to remember, if any of our guys and girls are still around and they want to participate in something, then support them. That's it. Just any support that any veteran asks for, they don't do that lightly. And if they show up and they do it on their time, they're doing it because they care, and they clearly care about our country, and they've always been that way. And we need more people like that.
This episode is brought to you by Oklawaha Brewing Company. Oklawaha Brewing is a nano brewery and taproom committed to brewing high-quality beer in a vibrant atmosphere and is conveniently located in downtown Hendersonville. Drop in sometime and check it out.
So do you know about these people who escaped a correctional facility in Lauderdale County, Alabama?
No.
So one dude escaped with the help of his corrections officer.
Oh, I saw that headline on Reddit, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I've been following it super closely because I'm ready for this made-for-TV movie, and that's the T9 segment. But there's an update because they just finally caught them.
They caught them?
Yes, just like an hour ago.
1 hour ago, and we're about to record. We're about to record this, and they caught them an hour ago. This is the part of the show where we shamelessly leverage our millennial identities to bring levity in a segment we're calling "What's the T9 Word?"
Bird.
This week's word is ICYMI, or maybe it's OMFG. That's probably for the listener to decide. One story that we've all been obsessed with lately is this one about Vicky White and Casey White. Every article's mentioned that they are not related. Vicky worked at the Lauderdale County Corrections, and WLOS said Vicky White is 5'5", weighs approximately 145 pounds. She has blonde hair and brown eyes, and reportedly has a waddling gait.
Which is a wild thing to say about someone who is 5'5" and 145 pounds. I am shorter and heavier than that. If anyone wants to say that I waddle, they can come say it to my face.
God.
If WLOS said that about me, I would be so fucking mad.
Why? What is the? Is it just to make them look stupider?
Yes.
I didn't say stupider. I said stupid or. I was gonna say stupid or something, but it came out stupider.
Yeah, I think that it's because we're all supposed to be mad at her because she was his corrections officer and she helped him escape, and then they bested the police for like a week.
Tell them she waddles; they'll hate her more.
Yes. Hold on.
A week. This is new. Okay, so Gina's the script, the writer for the show. So a lot of times I don't see these things until we're actually recording, and I'll probably cut this out too. Until one of these episodes, I'll say this the right way, and we get to keep it.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, this is bananas. And on May 4th, the Lauderdale County Sheriff confirmed that Vicky White is no longer a Lauderdale County employee.
And then that's all. That's all we have.
So
My bad.
So the update is that she doesn't work there no more.
Yeah, they fired her. So she.
What's the whole story? Okay, so do we know about how they got? Because this is definitely going to be a movie or something. Like, do we know how they got him out of?
Yes. So she rigged the schedule to make sure that she was the only corrections officer in the building who had a firearm on hand, because you have to have a firearm to transport a prisoner. So Casey White was ready to be transported. I don't know why. And she made sure that she was the one to do it. And this had been planned meticulously because she had just sold her home the week prior for cash. She sold it for $95,000 cash, which was like well below its value apparently. So she's flush with cash. She's getting her man out of prison. She loads him up in the car. They dump the cop car, jump into a Ford Escape, drive to Indiana, and that's where they're finally caught.
I'm just going to say it. You shouldn't be getting caught with $95,000 cash. We're in the 21st century. You can use that money to not be caught. That's wild. But this is ongoing. An hour ago, they've been caught an hour ago.
Yes. Well, by the time this podcast comes out, a week ago, they'll have been caught. But up until this point, police have been on like a 200-mile wild goose chase, essentially, trying to find them. They offered money rewards. This says, for the capture of Casey White and Vicky White, no relation to each other. They all say that. So April 29th was supposed to be Vicky White, the corrections officer's last day at work. She was supposed to retire that day. So on her last day of employment is when she decided to bust her partner Casey out of prison and take him to Indiana. It has to be a movie, right?
Yeah.
So people didn't realize that anything was up for hours because she had told them that she was taking him to an appointment first. And once they finally, like, the day came to a close, they were like, wait, what fucking appointment? And they started looking it up, and they were like, so initially the report said that they were worried that Vicky White was his hostage because they were not sure up until recently. So then they interviewed his cellmates, and they were like, yeah, she gave him extra food and privileges. Like, we told y'all that something was going on here, and you guys didn't believe us until she broke him out of jail, and they ran away together.
Tale as old as time.
Yes. Yeah, this article says that she sold her home for at least $90,000 below market
How'd
value.
they catch him? What is there anything out on how they caught him yet or no?
Let's see. Oh, also because she was the corrections officer who had a firearm, she was driving around that whole time with a 9mm, and somehow she had a shotgun in there as well.
This is great. This is
Okay, so U.S. Marshals found them in Evansville, Indiana.
Is that why U.S. Marshals is number one on Netflix right now? I bet.
Oh, I wonder. I bet so. So they found a truck that was abandoned at a car wash, and it was linked to Vicky White. So they were notified Sunday night and started a deep dive and found them through that, as far as I can. That's all the details that I can find.
All I can think of is the vacuum guy from Breaking Bad. It's like you need the vacuum guy. You know, he hid Walter White for a little more. I think it was like what, like $150,000 or something like that.
Something like that,
Yeah.
yeah. The sheriff of Lauderdale County, Rick Singleton, who he knew her personally, right? Like, she worked directly for him as a corrections officer. He said, quote, "I hope she survives this. She has some answers to give us." And then he said, "You don't know who you can trust. Vicky White was an exemplary employee. You just don't know people sometimes."
Yeah, man, love will make you do some crazy shit, brother.
So she's a perfect employee for 17 years, and you guys didn't notice that she was in love with an inmate? I mean, I know that she is the person to blame because she's the person who took the actions, but I gotta think, like, Benson and Stabler would never let this happen under their noses, you know? Like, some good detectives would never happen.
God, this takes Crazy Whites to like a whole new level.
I know. I know. We were talking about it today, and someone was like, "Oh, I wonder if they're related to the Whites of West Virginia." Yes. So I'm glad that they're caught and that everybody's safe, but also I'm a little bummed that this adventure's over.
Well, it's not. It's just
So true.
yeah. We're gonna get details about their journey. You know, this will be ongoing. More and more will be disclosed. The case is gonna get. You know, but I know this is why U.S. Marshal was like number one on Netflix, because I was on
Gotta
Netflix
be.
last night. Actually, I finished Ozark. By the way.
Oh, nice.
Oh my God.
Don't tell me anything.
It ends so. It's like a total. I'm not going to tell you anything. It ends very well. It's probably one of my... it might be my favorite ending.
I know one thing that means, but I won't say it on here in case we keep it in.
What?
I'm pretty sure that means that Ruth doesn't die. Don't tell me, though.
I'm not going to say it. Well, thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate your time and your continued support. If you would be interested in supporting the podcast, please consider donating to our Patreon at
Patreon.com /Fire on the Mountain pod.
Cool. Is that good?